All right, looks like it's. All right, looks like it's live. Alrighty, welcome anybody that's shown up. If anybody has, there's absolutely no point to this stream. I'm just here with my 2 cents just to chat because I'm bored as hell.
All right, never a bad reason to chat. Hello, everyone. This is my 2 cents. If you're not familiar with me, I have a channel. I talk about economics, culture, and smart living from a libertarian ANCAP perspective. So, yeah, what's up?
Not much. I'm on home time, and that's pretty much it. I'm on home time.
Okay.
Not even sure when I'm leaving exactly. I sent a request for load, but I ain't got nothing yet.
Okay.
What you been up to?
Well, I am traveling at the moment. Went out of town to go to a wedding, which I'm not a terribly big fan of weddings, but it was all right. They spent a lot, the friend of mine spent a lot of money on the wedding, and there was unlimited free beer and wine at the reception, so I'm not complaining about that.
Yeah, free refreshments are always nice.
Of course.
Yeah, I got a surprise with that the other day. I went to my daughter's preschool graduation, and they had refreshments there afterwards. I was also very impressed because it was mostly just cookies and lemonade. And usually when I go there, they have those crappy store-bought cookies that are really hard.
Yes.
Or cookies that they made 3 days before the event that ended up getting hard, but they were actually pretty fresh.
Okay. It's always nice. Fresh cookies along with some freshly brewed coffee and whatever else.
Yeah, it was cute too. I didn't tell her I was coming.
Okay.
And then after a little bit, when she went up to get her diploma, she walks up there. She gets her diploma, and then on the way back out, I was waving at her. She didn't recognize me for just a couple seconds. She just kind of waved back like, "Who's that?" And she recognized me, but she just continued walking. She's like, "Hey!" Pointed at me and then kept walking out. And,
okay.
And when she got back to the stage, she got all excited and spent the last performance trying to wave at me.
Well, graduated preschool, then going to kindergarten next year?
Oh, yeah, that's actually something I'm very proud of her for. She actually had to take a test to see if she could go because the cutoff date for... She was supposed to turn 5 to go to this particular elementary school. She was supposed to turn 5 before today. Or, no, yesterday. June 1st. But she actually tested very high on a test they gave her, and they said they'd make an exception for her. She gets to go even though she don't turn 5 till August.
Okay, well, good for her.
And I'm also worried about college funds because she said they asked all the kids what they want to do when they grow up, and she said a doctor.
Oh, well, good for her.
Hope she makes it. So I was talking to my wife. We're going to try to work on setting up a college fund. So if she continue, she is 4, so she may change her mind to her 20 times before she gets there. But hey, might as well prepare so it's.
Of course, no better time to start investing than now. You wait till she's 16; it's too late to start.
You're like, can you just be a truck driver? I can't afford a doctor.
Well, hey, what I'd encourage her to, that's really her aspiration. She works hard. By the time she gets, and she's a hard, dedicated student by the time she gets to high school, there are plenty of scholarship programs for things like that, so provided she's willing to put in the work.
But yeah, I don't doubt she will. She's a smart little kid, and a lot of the people on her biological dad's side of the family have done some good, smart things in their life. So I have no doubt that she'll be work hard and get it done.
Okay.
I plan to help her out. I'm definitely hoping to teach her how to play basketball later, and I'm hoping she gets good at that because she is going to be a tall kid.
Okay.
So I'm willing to predict there's actually a chance she could even get basketball scholarships. if she's
Okay.
interested in it. I'm not going to like force her to do it if she don't want to do it or anything like that, because I don't believe in that. But
Of course.
we've got a couple windows open. I'm also hoping to improve her chances by getting her sign language classes and Spanish classes sometime while she's young enough to pick it up easier.
Okay. Well, definitely true. Easier to learn that stuff when you're young.
Yeah, I know from personal experience, I'm freaking horrible at. I was terrible at learning how to.
Yeah, I minored in
learning languages.
I minored in a foreign language, and I was pretty good at it when I graduated college. But I haven't practiced at all since, and you lose it almost immediately if you stop practicing.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, I remembered a few Spanish words for a little bit after I left high school, but excuse me, it didn't take long before I forgot everything except for how to count, pretty much.
Okay.
But hopefully, we can do that. I've also discovered a really good deal with Rosetta Stone for kids about as young as 4th grade.
Okay. Well, I know among language experts, Rosetta Stone is very popular. I'm pretty sure the U.S. military uses it to train people and a lot of other groups as well.
But yeah, I found a pretty good deal for them. Like, it would take about, they said it'd be like 5 payments of $33 for their whole program that lasts about 2 years. I'm also trying to talk my parents into getting that for my youngest brother, because he's a 6th grader this year. Like that boom kid in the chat here.
Yes.
He's going into the 6th grade this year, and I think it might actually help him if he starts learning it early instead of waiting till he can't pick it up.
Of course.
End of this month. Yeah. Me and my wife's 3-year anniversary also is the end of this month.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Yeah, she fed this app on her phone, which is entertaining sometimes. It literally counts every day that we've been together if you put in the date. It'll remind you in the morning, like, you have been together for 2,378 days or whatever it is.
Okay. Well, provided your phone lasts until you're in your 70s, that'll be a pretty nice remembrance to have in your old age.
Well, we can re-download it if need be, but yeah. It's like,
yes.
We actually just got new phones the other day.
Okay.
The last phone I had was kind of dumb. The charging port started to rot a little bit, so I was going through a new charger every freaking week.
Yeah, that sucks.
Anyway, so what else you been working on aside from like weddings?
Aside from weddings, well, started new position at my job outside of YouTube. I'm not gonna say more about that than just that I started a new portion of the job. So that's been a lot of work.
Well, congrats on that.
Thank you. Other than that, not a whole lot of different stuff in my spare time other than spend time with friends. And, yeah.
How's your channel been doing? I've watched most of the videos. I just haven't checked any of the analytics on it.
Okay, it's been doing pretty good. Views have been staying fairly consistent. The video I did about Thanos being wrong on overpopulation seems to be pretty popular. It's gotten about 3 times as many views as my average video does. Right now I'm sitting at 3,919 subscribers.
Nice. Yeah, that's one thing I'm trying to figure out how to beat on this site. I'm trying to find a mixture of this. Trying to see if there's anything I should improve on my content to get it out more. I'm also trying to figure out ways to beat the algorithm.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think part of it is just patience. Everyone who starts out, you don't hardly have any followers. It takes, like even Tree of Logic was saying in one of her videos recently that usually takes at least a year before you start for a channel can start taking off. The growth has been slow on my channel as of late as well. I'd say it's a combination of factors. The algorithm definitely plays a part in it, but it's a combination between how clickbait your video is from the start. Does it have a thumbnail that catches people's eyes? The title catch people's eye? I mean, is it interesting enough that within the first 15 seconds people want to keep watching? And I think, and this is something. I mean, this isn't stuff I figured out overnight. It's the more you do it, the more you figure this stuff out. But you have to think about it from the viewer who's never heard of you before. They're just looking around trying to get entertained, and as shallow as it seems, if they're not interested in the first 15 seconds, they're probably going to click on something else. And then after that, just the quality of the content, and those are all things that only get better with practice. So I mean, other than uploading new content consistently and constantly making it better is the best advice I can give. Also, and then obviously collabing with other folks is always helpful as well. But
yeah, true. I'm working on all those things. So far, really, the only thing that's worried me is the algorithm keeping my videos down. That
is a problem, especially for those of us that comment on stuff from a right-wing perspective. It's no secret YouTube is radically leftist.
And this is how confusing the algorithm is to me, though, which if it was a little more consistent with certain things, I probably could figure out a way to beat it. But the things that it gets inconsistent on is, like, even some of the leftist content that my wife's a little more liberal than me, but she follows a number of leftist things, not like far leftist, but more liberal channels, and a lot of them are having trouble with even a lot of them are having trouble with YouTube videos and stuff like that. I know I've heard, like, even people that we've constantly argued with, like Christy Winters and T1J and people like that, have all had to do Patreons and stuff like that because YouTube keeps demonetizing their stuff too. A lot of LGBT sites I've seen that have been claiming their stuff's been demonetized. Hell, even like Rob Dyke and Kaylee Elise, who they'll do like horror content, and Kaylee Elise does missing persons content, and I guess they call it true crime, but even they get their stuff demonetized a lot. Like, Rob Dykes had to rely on Patreon money and donations and stuff, and almost had to fire some of his staff just to...
Yeah, that sucks. The algorithms, I mean, the computers just aren't smart enough to figure that stuff out, because I know Dave Cullen on Computing Forever was talking about it and pointing out that the algorithm can't detect sarcasm. So even sometimes when people say things that would otherwise be offensive sarcastically, the computer doesn't know the difference. And I mean, it's only channels like the Young Turks obviously have so many followers that YouTube basically just gives them a pass, and they can pretty much guarantee their stuff will be monetized. But everybody else, ever since the Adpocalypse, it's really hit, especially the people who do it full time. And I think the whole concept of the Adpocalypse is dumb anyways. It's not like, I mean, there are certain sponsorships where, like, if an advertiser specifically shakes hands with a specific creator and makes a deal for that creator to specifically give them a shout out, that's a little more of a direct creator to advertiser relationship. But in the case of YouTube pays you. The companies pay YouTube to advertise on their platform. They don't pick who their ads play on, and therefore I don't think any reasonable person can say that because an ad plays on a certain video, it means the advertiser endorses that creator. I mean, they ought to just, be grateful that YouTube is advertising their product. They pay them to do that. YouTube, and I think if it was understood that YouTube is a platform, they're paid, they receive payment to advertise, and it does not mean that the advertiser endorses the creator, then there's no need for this. this idea that advertisers ought to pull all their content, because what if my content plays on a racist video? The fact that it plays doesn't mean you endorse the content. That's how an open platform works. But
yeah, like the way I talked to my wife about it, and I thought of some way that it could have worked. That I think I was thinking about this, and I thought something along the lines of like, a certain advertiser could specify to YouTube what genre of content they want their stuff to appear on, give them that right, but do the same thing for the creators, give them a chance to be like, okay, like I don't want NRA ads on my content, let them skip those, but like set up both sides to have the options to choose advertisers or deny advertisers. Advertisers can choose content or deny content. That way, the free market kind of decides who goes to where.
exactly.
And then just let them get the money that they get from their. Let them have the money that they get from their advertisements. Like, I don't think they've confirmed or denied it yet, but they were kind of curious if that was the reason for Bering's channel getting terminated because of his CBD oil ads.
Okay.
Which, honestly, that stuff's not illegal, so they should be allowed to advertise it.
Yeah.
The CBD oil that they were suspecting caused Bering's channel to get deleted. But like I thought of that because I remember hearing a few places, a few people that YouTube got pissed off at for having sponsored content, and they're just like, "You demonetized all my shit, and I can't make a living off of you anymore. What do you want me to do?"
Exactly.
You know, like, then they also need to specify what they want and what they don't want on YouTube, and just give us something to go by. Because do you follow Sinatra Says?
Not as consistently as other channels, but I know who he is.
He did a video on the Parkland shooting. I can't remember exactly when. I think it was like a couple days after it happened. He got a strike on it. He appealed it. It was a strike for harassment and bullying. And I've watched damn near all of his videos. He's pretty tame on it. But what they did was they gave him a strike on that. He appealed it, and they said, okay, this is fine. They put it back up. Now, not even 2 weeks after he got his channel back, after another strike that he lost the appeal on, just after getting his channel and his streaming abilities back, he got a strike on the same video, and this time they are saying that it is harassment and bullying, and they're not putting it back up. So it got struck twice for the same reason, but the first time it was fine.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. And the thing is, I no two employees at YouTube can give a consistent answer for why certain videos get censored and others don't. That's why PragerU sued them.
On that note, I haven't looked it up, just out of curiosity. You heard anything about that lawsuit from Google when that one feller got fired for his conservative opinions?
The one James Damore. I haven't heard anything new about that recently, no.
I'd be curious about that, because Undoomed released 2 videos reading out the document for the court case, and I am very curious as to how that is going to go, because a couple things they pointed out in there that are correct, and I know this from certain jobs that I've worked, is they were actually discriminatory at Google based on the policies they were putting in there. The only difference is it was towards white people this time. And
yeah. Well, I think according to the memo, the hiring staff at Google was specifically told to ignore any resumes that were white men, Asian men, or maybe I don't know about white women, but I think it was just that they said they were specifically told not to review any resumes for either white or Asian men, because those two demographics, they didn't need more representation from those demographics. I mean, that is the definition of racial discrimination. So, yeah, exactly. Using no other factors than a person's race, they threw out resumes. So,
Yeah, and I don't get this forced diversity because, like for example, let's say they tried to do that here. They're not going to fill a quota of like black folks, and nothing against black people. I have no problem with any race or anything like that, but we don't have a very big population of black folks down where I live. It's mostly white people and Mexican folks. So I don't get
Exactly.
where these diversity quotas are supposed to come from. It's like a response I'm giving to T1J here in a few days on a video he released about 3 weeks ago, talk about the problem with Apu. And he addresses some of the points that were made in that documentary, but it basically boils down to that I use this term very loosely, comedian that made the original documentary. Part of his complaint about Apu is the fact that that was one of the only bits of representation that Indian Americans had back when The Simpsons started. And he's basically complaining that there wasn't that much representation for a group of people that were basically 30.33% of our population. I looked up the population of them at the time. It was only like just barely over 800,000 people that lived in this country at the time. Mm-hmm. And it's like he's demanding this type of representation that we don't yet have that much of a market for, because there's not that many people from that specific ethnicity trying to get into film and acting and stuff. And even with the ones that we do have, and we have a list of a couple hundred of them that I looked up, we don't always have roles and stuff for them to fill, plus they have to take interest in and apply for those roles in order to get the jobs. We can't just pick a random Indian and be like, here you go.
Yeah. I mean, I've always said diversity is not inherently good any more than racial uniformity is inherently good. The only thing that should matter is meritocracy. Are the most qualified people getting the jobs? I mean, that's what any business that wants to be successful ought to want. And I mean, I as an advocate of voluntary association, I think if a private business really thinks they need ethnic diversity, they're welcome to do so. But if they're more concerned with being successful as a business, they ought to be more concerned with hiring the people who are most qualified for the job.
Yeah, exactly. And like, especially with the problem with Apu thing, I never got what the problem was, because like Apu was number one. He was a very smart man. He owned his own business. He was raising a family of 8, and he was one of the best. I'm not an avid watcher of The Simpsons, but I know from what I've watched that he is a very well-developed character as far as a satirical comedy goes. And then the other thing I never got was they're complaining about the representation for Indian Americans and claiming that they're another type of oppressed group because apparently we're in the age of making up oppression points. But they earn more. Their population in the United States is actually one of the top earning averages in this country. And I haven't really met an Indian person that is not a very smart, interesting person to talk to. Like, I mean, Reva, the girl that runs Brownie with Opinions, she's a very smart girl.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like, did you ever check out that collaboration that me and her did?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. One of the things I've always remembered from that is there's at least 3 or 4 responses where she gave some examples that to contradict Riley Dennis's points in that video that I'm just like, I'm in awe of how smart she is, because I had no idea any of that stuff even existed.
Mm-hmm.
Strong? Hey, give me just 1 second. All right, sorry about that.
Oh, no problem.
We'll cook it before we leave. Yeah. Sister-in-law accidentally made a little too much dinner.
Okay.
which isn't a bad thing. I mean, I could take some of that stuff on the truck with me.
Of course.
So anyway, speaking of content, what have you been working on lately?
Lately, I guess my most recent video was I debunked a video that was put out on Bernie Sanders' channel about basically he was arguing against deregulating banks, claiming that the 2008 financial crisis was caused by a lack of regulation. And I'm basically pointing out that the exact opposite is true. The 2008 crisis only happened because specifically of government regulation. And despite the history of banking shows that the government never learns its lesson. I mean, it's bad enough that the Federal Reserve banking system has complete control of our monetary system, which is the core of most of our financial problems. But also, the more the government tries to regulate things, the more inefficient and costly they become. As far as other videos, I haven't gotten to which one I'm going to make for this week. I'm working on one of my Patreon rewards is I do collabs with members of the Elite Club. So I'm working on one. As soon as he's got his part done, I'll be putting that video out. We're debunking Professor Richard Wolff. He's the Marxist professor. And then I guess I'll do some I'm going to have to do some browsing this week, find something else to address. I've got a number of shorter like video essays on economics I'll be making eventually. I'm looking to do some more culture and smart living ones as well, although I've had trouble finding videos worth debunking. I mean, not that there's not content, there is. I mean, Think Tank and everybody else puts out like 10 videos a day, but it's a matter of finding ones that aren't so dumb that they're worth debunking.
Yeah, no, like I look for titles that catch my eye. If the title is bad enough, it makes me want to punch my computer. That's usually when I'll choose one. But like, I found one recently, which courtesy of Bearing. I forget I can't remember the guy's actual name. His channel is titled The Progressive Voice. He's the guy that Bearing described as the love child of Cenk Uygur and Kyle Kalinske.
Yes. I've actually debunked one of his videos before, and someone called into he's got like a phone line that people can leave him messages. Someone left him a message requesting that he respond to my debunking, and he, in response, said that he doesn't debate ANCAPs because they're an absolute joke. And so me and Mr. Dapperton did a collab response to him, basically calling him out, saying, look, dude, either respond to us or don't. But if you really thought my view on this is this. I understand no one has the time to respond to everyone who makes responses to them. But if you really believed our position was so stupid it wasn't even worth engaging, your viewers would not be calling you, asking you to respond. The only reason someone would have called him and asked him to respond to my video would have to be that he watched my video and he wasn't sure how to respond. So he wanted Progressive Voice's help. And I mean, if Progressive Voice really thinks I'm so stupid that it's not even worth responding to, he would have completely ignored me. But the fact that, or Mr. Dapperton as well, but the fact that he has to say it's so dumb, if you respond to somebody's video, great. If you completely ignore them, great. But if you say that it's so dumb it's not worth responding to, I mean, who are you convincing? You're not convincing us, and you're not helping your followers. So, I mean, that tells me you're threatened by it. And rather than risk getting refuted, you want to make up an excuse for why you're not responding. So,
yeah, fair enough. That's one thing I thought about, and I added to my new opinion video series that I set up. Released the first one today to talk about the NFL and Roseanne stuff. But I added in the description, and I even said during the video that if anybody wants to talk about it, you can talk about it in the comment section. I even specified specifically, I'm willing to go on a live stream and have a debate about it or a discussion about it if you prefer. That way people know right away I'm up for a discussion, and I'm not one of those talking heads that's going to put a video on the internet but refuse to discuss anything in the video, because those people annoy me the most. And I don't have a problem with somebody if they're not If they don't want to debate live, that's fine. The only time I have a problem with it is if they're unwilling to discuss their opinions in a professional manner.
Exactly.
Because like I have had a few discussions with a few people in DMs, and the only reason they didn't want to go live is because they don't want to reveal their like identity or anything, because they were on like an anonymous Twitter account to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
But like that's like a oh yeah that's like that Michelle Guido girl I told you about the last time we had a stream.
Yes.
Like honestly, she's an example of why I think people should have civil discussions with each other, because we don't agree on everything. I still admit that, but I went onto her channel after our couple of debate attempts fell through. We tried to go on a couple different channels, and we ended up just saying, "Screw it, we'll just go on her channel." And we discovered that we agree on more things than we thought. Like one of her things that she talked about was paid maternity leave, and I wanted to question her on that because the way she worded it, I thought she meant it should be mandatory through the government. But turns out the way she thought it should be set up is exactly how I think it should be set up, which is let a business decide. If the business decides, they could do something, for example, similar to a 401k. You can ask to have X amount of your check deducted and put into an account so that you can have that money given to you if you go on maternity leave. And you can use that to pay for yourself while you're taking your maternity leave. That way the company doesn't have to pay for an employee that's not working there.
Yes. I mean, I think as a free market advocate, I think all those decisions should be made by the individual businesses. When you tell businesses they must provide certain things legally, all that does is force small businesses that can't afford it to close, and it helps out the larger corporations that everyone supposedly hates by getting rid of their competition.
Yeah, exactly. They blame the big corporations for how big they are and act like they're part of the problem, where they're just like, no, if you'd open the market up, quit regulating everybody, and give more freedom, we'd have more competition. They'll be forced to keep their shit down.
No, exactly. I always think of there was a debate Bernie Sanders did with Ted Cruz on CNN, and the owner of a Fantastic Sam's hair salon asked Bernie a question, and she said, she said she owns a franchise. She owns 5 Fantastic Sam's hair salons. She says, I have exactly 49. This was a debate about Obamacare and the restrictions it imposed. She said, I have 49 employees. I want to expand my business and create more jobs, but I can only employ 49 because the moment I employ 50, Obamacare requires me to provide health care to my employees. And she's like, I don't know if you've ever worked in a hair salon, but my profit margins are not big enough to provide that. So how am I supposed to expand my business and create more jobs? And Bernie's answer was, I know you're not going to like this, but I think that if you have 50 or more employees, you should have to provide health care. What are your employees supposed to do if they need health care? And I was just like, you idiot. Do you understand what you're saying? That if in order to be in business, she has to have enough money to pay her employees more. Well, that just means that you're saying there should be less jobs in the market than otherwise would be, because if you can't afford to pay your employees, I mean, actually back up. To sum this up, basically, Bernie thinks it's better for people to be unemployed than to have a job that doesn't have a certain number of benefits, because he'd rather destroy jobs than have jobs exist that don't give certain benefits.
Well, in his defense, Obamacare pays for those people to free off of my dime, so...
Yeah, exactly.
But no, I'm just kidding. That's not really a defense. That's exactly why I'm irritated by Obamacare. Like, that's one of the things that always irritate me with arguments. They're always just like, if Trump takes away Obamacare, 20 million people will lose their health insurance. That's not right. Like, okay, you know that more than half of those people are going to voluntarily give up their health insurance because they don't freaking want it? And they're only having it because they don't want to pay a fine?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what freedom means. If you don't want health insurance, you shouldn't have to have it. And if the health care industry wasn't so heavily regulated anyways, healthcare would be cheap. If we had competition, then only people who provided the highest quality services at the lowest possible price would survive.
Yeah, exactly. Like the only problem I've ever seen with that, and this is what I think about sometimes, is I do understand the point of somebody that has a random emergency and can't afford to pay it, but that's most likely going to be counteracted by the fact that there's competition, and there's probably going to be a couple hospitals that will say, okay, well, we'll give you the care and we'll let you pay it back over time.
And that is, I don't know of a single hospital. Incidentally, it is this way in the third world in a lot of countries where the government does provide healthcare, but at least in America, I don't know of a single hospital where they will turn away someone who, has a serious condition that needs to be treated immediately. They don't ask if they have health insurance. They get them in the ER and they save their lives. And afterwards, they figure out how to resolve the matter. But I mean, it's not like the healthcare system just turns away and allows people to die because they can't afford them. They do, however, do that in the UK. If you can see what happened to Alfie Evans.
And like the other thing people don't realize, as far as people need to realize that your quality of care also gets better if there's more competition.
Exactly.
Good example of this. My sister-in-law. My sister-in-law, she ended up being diagnosed with a disease. I can't remember the name of it, but slowly over a few months, she started getting less and less active. And this is one of those girls, she would walk literally 2 miles to and from school.
Okay.
And not only that, would probably walk a few more miles if she felt like hanging out with friends every day. Active as hell, started slowing down and ended up even being put on oxygen at one point. Now, the doctors in our hometown, Pueblo, were not doing very good of a job of taking care of what was going on. We weren't getting any answers to why she was 18 and on oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my grandmother does smoke, but she doesn't smoke near enough to cause her lung problems and cause my sister-in-law lung problems at this point. So we were trying to find answers. Finally, we ended up going to the Children's Hospital in Colorado Springs. They found out what it was. They got her in the hospital, and yes, she has to wear oxygen every now and then. But her health is significantly improved, and so has her activity. So if you are perfect example of competition, we were getting piss poor care where we live, so we went to somebody else, and we got the care that she needed.
Exactly.
Because the way competition works is and I'm mainly saying this in case anybody watches that doesn't think about the things that we think about. The way competition works is you have to do a good job if you want customers.
Exactly. Everyone says capitalism is only for selfish people, but the irony is that if people are selfish, the only way they can make more money is by giving the customer what they want. As Ben Shapiro puts it, capitalism is forced altruism.
See, this is the other good thing about capitalism that recently happened in my own state. Kind of a good thing because it also, this is one thing that shows the hypocrisy of some people, honestly. We've always heard the controversies of should Christian bakers be required to cater to gay weddings?
Mm-hmm.
And I say no. I don't the way I usually say it is if they come in, I'll use the example of that pizza place in Indianapolis. Should they be allowed to turn away those customers just for being gay when they walk in the door to get a pizza with everybody else? Maybe not. But should they be allowed to turn down a catering service, which is a private event? Yes, they should be allowed to turn that down. Because, let's put forth an example. They're a Christian bakery, and they come in there and say, hey, can you come cater our gay wedding? And they say no. And they turn around and sue this bakery because they're Christians and they think it's discrimination. They're not even thinking about the possibility, what if they were going to cater to it because they don't care, but they're going to Hawaii that week. Like, it goes down a
Mm-hmm.
dangerous road when you think about it. And like the one that happened recently in Colorado Springs, Colorado, happened sometime last year in this lawsuit. I think what somebody investigated along the route from where the couple lived to the bakery they went to. There were at least 18 bakeries they could have gone to that would have had no problem with it. They specifically sought out the Christian bakery because they knew that he would not cater to that event privately, and they could sue him. How, and they also leave at the fact that the guy said, he's like, I'll bake the cake, but I won't decorate the cake. Like, he would have baked the cake, he would have put the icing on it, but he would have said, you guys got to put your names on it and put your groom wedding topper on it. Which, personally, I think is fair.
Well, and I think what a lot of people don't read, and I know I don't know what when the Masterpiece Cake Shop court case was heard before the Supreme Court, the attorney representing the Masterpiece Cake Shop made a very appropriate point, and that was the question was asked. He said, "Okay, let's imagine for a minute there's a bakery where the owner of the bakery is an avid supporter of gun control. He thinks that private citizens should not be allowed to own firearms. Well, then suppose a member of the NRA comes in and says, I want you to bake a cake that says support our Second Amendment, and I want you to, put a picture of a gun on the top of the cake. What if is that baker justified in refusing service because he doesn't support the right to bear arms? What if a member of the KKK comes into a cake shop and says he wants a cake that depicts, where there's a picture of the KKK hanging a black man on the top of the cake? Should the baker be allowed to make a cake, be forced by law to make a cake like that? I mean, when you get to the point where you tell bakers they actually have to write messages that they explicitly disagree, they have an obligation to make a cake for something that they explicitly disagree with. You can't have it both ways. It can't be, the law can't be applied. Well, I mean, I suppose it could be, but it would be completely inconsistent for the court to say that if it's a Christian, they have to make a cake with pro-gay messages on it, but if it's it's a gun control advocate, they have to make pro-gun cakes, or anything else. I mean, it just, whether it's the KKK, the NRA, Black Lives Matter, any of those groups, anyone would be required to make a cake with anything written on it, regardless of how offensive. That just gets ridiculous.
It really is. Plus, personally, I don't like the road that leads down to, because we see how the UK is now because of people doing stuff like that.
Exactly. And I'm going to be perfectly honest, this might be an unpopular opinion, but this is honestly what I think. I think that if for example, there was a business that said, you know what, we don't serve black people, I think they should legally have the right to do that. Now, think about it, though. In today's world, do you think such a business would survive for long if that was their stated policy? Of course not. Everyone would vote with their wallets and boycott that business, and they would not survive for long. Much in the same way, I think that's a dumb reason. I think a business owner would be stupid to do that. But I think they should have the right to do that, because it's not a violation of anyone else's rights to say we won't serve you. This gay couple who believed they were being discriminated against because the Masterpiece Cake Shop wouldn't make a wedding with pro-gay messages on it, they are perfectly free to not shop there. They are perfectly free to organize a boycott of the bakery. But the idea that the baker should have to pay them hundreds of thousands of dollars for the emotional stress he caused them because he won't bake their wedding cake, that is a violation of his rights. So.
And plus that honestly goes back to our free market thing.
Exactly.
For example, say some racist guy owns a pizza shop and he chases out every black customer. The outrage is going to get people to boycott that business, and if he doesn't straighten up and stop with his racist beliefs and doing that, he's going to lose his business.
Exactly.
And I pointed that out in my recent video, the opinion video with Roseanne, is the NFL is a good example of how we pulled off a successful boycott. More people were pissed off at the anthem protest than the people that were for it, and more people stopped watching. That lost them enough business. They decided to make that policy requiring them to stand for the anthem or wait in the locker room. And that's how a protest works. You do it with you vote with your wallet.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, and no one's, you can talk all you want about the First Amendment. No one's rights are being violated because the NFL is a private corporation and it exists to make a profit. The players have the First Amendment right to protest the anthem if they want to, but the NFL is not legally required to keep employing them if it's causing them to lose money. So,
exactly. My basic argument against this, like at first I was doing the NFL just as an example, as a practice video, but then I saw something on my personal Facebook, and I had a brief discussion with a friend of mine about we disagree on a number of things politically, but he shared a thing from this website on Facebook. You probably heard of it, but it is complete cancer, called Occupy Democrats. Like,
okay,
that page on Facebook and another one called The Other 98%. Both of them are even far leftist sites that measure the accuracy of news sources. Even they say that they're 0% accurate, which is hilarious. But they're one of those sites. They don't even joke or debate. They basically have the mindset: if you're not their version of far left, you're wrong. And they're another one of those sites that calls you every name of the book if you support Trump. Basically, they released a meme that said, "Conservatives last week, yay, the NFL is suppressing the players' free speech and making them stand for the anthem." Conservatives this week, why is ABC suppressing Roseanne's right to free speech? To which I respond, which inspired me to re-record the video. I addressed both controversies in one, and I specified both companies had the right to do what they did. NFL has the right to enact their policy, and ABC does have the right to fire Roseanne for her tweet. The reason conservatives are saying things like that, and it's not just conservatives, honestly. My wife's more liberal than me, and even she's pissed off at the Roseanne thing. What we're saying is we wanted the politics to stay off the football field because we watch football to ignore that crap. And one thing I've also said is, I didn't say in the video, but I was originally going to say it. I want to take my daughter to a Broncos game this year because she really wants to go to one. And I don't want to take her there if I'm going to be bombarded with more political crap. Because one of my personal beliefs, I want to teach her that when the anthem is played, you respect it. And I don't think it should be a tool for protest. I believe you have that right, but I don't believe it should be. But
well, when you consider the implications, the reason they have the right to protest is because of the First Amendment. It's like the students at Yale who signed a petition to have the First Amendment repealed. The only reason they have the right to sign that petition is because of the First Amendment. So, I mean, while they have the right to do it, it's kind of like sitting in a tree branch, sawing off the branch you're sitting on. It's just by using the protest in that way, you're only working towards not having that right. I mean, how many people do you see in North Korea who are protesting their anthem by sitting, or in Iran, or in any country like that?
None. They're 6 feet under.
Yeah, exactly. If you did see someone doing that, that's the last time you'd see them.
And then, I did decide to be fair because ABC does have the right to do that. But what I specified was, me personally, and a lot of people will share the sentiment, is I agree with the anthem with the new rule in the NFL because I don't think they should be bringing their politics onto the field. They should take it off the field. And also, on a side note, I meant to leave this line in there, but I completely forgot about it when I was ignoring it. I also believe that is a telltale sign of how strongly these players believe about their beliefs. Like, they're talking about black oppression. And number one, I think it's contradicted by the fact that 75% of the NFL is black men who are making more than I'm going to see in my lifetime. And it'll also tell if they actually believe their cause is just, because they should be willing to show the examples of it, and they should be doing it on their off time if they believe that it's a problem. Like, my feeling is if this season goes on and none of them try to improve the things they're protesting in their own time. They don't actually believe in it. It was just a publicity stunt.
Mm-hmm.
Then, like what I said about Roseanne is them firing her for the tweet could potentially turn out the same way that the NFL protest did. Is people will use their wallets and stuff to vote by tuning out of ABC, not buying merchandise from the site or whatever.
And their opinion will change pretty fast, I guarantee, if they start losing money. A perfect example is in 2013, Phil Robertson of Duck Dynasty was interviewed by GQ magazine. He was asked if he thought homosexuality was a sin. Being a Christian, he answered, "Yes, I believe it is." Now, he didn't say, "I hate homosexuals." He didn't say, "I don't think they should have the right to live their lives as they see fit." He simply said, "Yes, I am a Christian, and I believe homosexuality is a sin." Well, A&E responded by suspending him from the show. The Robertsons said, "Hey, this is what we believe, and we're not going to budge on that issue. We're not going forward with the show if Phil's not on it." Well, thousands of people started boycotting A&E, and within a week, Phil was back on the show. So,
yeah, exactly. And the things that people don't understand, this is one thing I had always said during a number of the LGBT protests and stuff like that, is, and I've seen a few LGBT sites that have actually admitted this, and I highly respect those people. You got a lot of them that will try to just simply say that you're a bigot if you don't believe them. And I've kept saying, okay, number one, you got to take into consideration something, and this is religious beliefs aside. You got to take into consideration anybody, regardless of their religious background or even if they even had a religion, found being gay to be unnatural, foreign, mental disorder, you name it. And yes, it progressed a little bit, but you got to take into consideration it's foreign to them. They're going to find it really weird, and you can't tell them that they're bigoted for not changing their mind on a belief that they've had their entire lives plus generations before that. You can't get mad at your 90-year-old grandmother for being against your gay wedding. Be patient with her and respect her opinions. Just respectfully disagree with them.
Exactly.
Because if you show them, the more tolerant people I've seen are people that have, it's been gay people that respect people that disagree with their opinion, who in turn will be friends with religious people that say, "I disagree with your lifestyle, but I agree that you have the right to live it that way, and that I have no
exactly." And I can still be civil and respectful to you, even though I personally disagree with your lifestyle. So,
exactly, that's how I've said it a couple of times, is that's how they will improve some of the, I'll agree that there are a couple issues that they still have that could be solved, but I said it's not going to be solved by being an ass. It's going to be solved by being calm and being polite, just like the civil rights movement was done. For example, there was that excuse me, one of the examples I've also said is on the representation issue they keep talking about. And this is another thing that kind of makes me laugh, because number one, it's an example of how the markets are working on, even with big network television, and how they need to listen and just be patient on a few things. They'll complain about representation in the media. They'll be like, "We want gay characters." Okay, they get a gay character. Guess what? They throw it in there as a token, so it's a piss poorly written character. Therefore, the show becomes unpopular, so they got to do something to get rid of the character, which is usually just killing them off. And then they get pissed because they're killing off all the gay characters. And it's okay, don't be demanding this so much that we just throw one in and then get mad when we have to get rid of it because it's unpopular. Be patient and let us write proper characters, or go out there and write your own characters, and it will come.
Exactly.
And then, honestly, my favorite one that I kind of laughed at, that's going to freaking tank, and it's going to be this is going to actually cost them some money, I believe. And I also think this is hilarious irony. You know how J.K. Rowling, the Harry Potter author, has been such a virtue signaling bitch for quite a while now.
Oh yeah, she's all about bring more immigrants into Britain, yet you won't see a single one of them put up in her mansion that has however many bedrooms.
Yeah, and and she's even done it with LGBT people before. But my favorite thing that I literally rolled laughing, although at the same time it did honestly kind of anger me a little bit. Um, Now, like back what I was saying about LGBT representation, I don't like it when they do token representation because then you get a piss poorly written character that's not any fun. I don't have a problem with a gay character in the show, just as long as they're written properly and that their sexuality has something to do with the storyline. Just having them as gay doesn't add anything, and I don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
Throwing a token in there. However, she said early on that she believed that Dumbledore was gay as she wrote him, and there was some development to that story. But then she turns around and says they're not going to do that. They're bringing Dumbledore into the newest Fantastic Beasts movie when he was younger, and the antagonist is a man who was supposed to be Dumbledore's lover, that she had said. But she said she's not going to portray that in the movie because she doesn't want to lose money from audiences that see that it's a gay character. And I'm just like, I laughed at that, but I was also angry at it because I was like, okay, you had the chance to actually change the tide and put in a properly written gay character that would have actually had their sexuality relevant to the story in a way. But you tore that away because you're afraid of money, which just shows that you're a hypocrite who's virtue signaling just to get popularity.
Exactly. I mean, if you're in it for the money, so be it. If you're in it to virtue signal, at least stick to your principles. Don't try to convince everyone it's one or the other when it's obviously not.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I actually am going to have to get going here, but thank you for having me on.
No problem. Thank you for coming on. I had a fun chat. That filled my streaming desire for at least a couple weeks until I get home next.
All right.
But anyway, for anybody in the chat who doesn't know, this is my 2 cents. He's a cool guy. We've done a collab before. Probably will do another one in the future. Please check out his channel. I'll add it to the description as soon as I'm done here.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. All right. Once again, thank you guys for showing up, and I'll catch you next time.